If you're thinking about a move to Tyler, Texas, in today's video, we are going to rank the best small towns that should be on your radar. As always, thank you for tuning into our channel. Today, we are going to give you a new video breaking down the best small towns around Tyler, Texas, and what you need to know about those towns. We're going to start with number 7 and go all the way to number 1, so stay tuned. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our channel. That way you get all the notifications when we drop our newest videos. Additionally, if you're thinking about making a move to East Texas, we want to be a resource for you. We've got all our information in the video, in the contact information below, so please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, so let's get into it. Today's video, we're going to talk about all the small towns that are surrounding Tyler. We're going to rank them all from worst to best, and we're going to look at probably like a 30-minute area of any direction, any town that's in that area. We are going to rank it in our list today, so let's get started. So before we get going, I want to give you just a brief detail on how I did this, what I used to rate these homes. It's going to be looking at what I thought were some of the things that I think are important for a small town, the sense of community, the cost, the schools, the amenities, things like that. And I gave them a score, kind of 1 to 10, not necessarily 10 getting the most for being the best. Sometimes I gave multiple city towns the same thing if I didn't think there was much difference. And so based on that, this is the rankings that I came up with. And our worst group of small towns is going to come in at number 7, and that is Flint and Winona. So let me preface this by saying neither one of these places are bad, but when I ranked them, they just had the lowest score based on some of that criteria. So we're talking about Flint, Texas. I'm going to tell you what I think are some of the good things about Flint. Some of the pros are it is very close to Tyler. It's basically like rural Tyler. It's just west or southwest of Tyler. It's also going to, for me, kind of be the same thing as Noonday. You can't really type Noonday in Zillow and get anything to come up, but some of that Noonday area is going to be basically Flint. Additionally, they are developing newer homes out in the Flint area, so you're going to have options for newer construction with bigger lots, things like that. And it's actually probably going to be a little bit cheaper than a lot of the newer construction you're going to find in the 03 zip code of Tyler. Additionally, Flint sits on the south side of Tyler, so you're just outside of town. It's very quick and convenient to get to anything that you would want to in South Tyler. Additionally, Flint is on the east side of Lake Palestine, so if you want to be close to the lake or even live on the lake and have all the amenities of Tyler, Flint provides a great option for you. All right, so some of the negatives about Flint are going to be there's a lack of things to do. Really, Flint doesn't have anything. There is a grocery store, I guess, on 155. There's a few small restaurants, but to me, they're just kind of out there. Everything that you're going to want to do is probably going to involve you going to Tyler, so you're just going to be limited there. All right, so tied with Flint is Winona. Winona, not dissimilar from Flint, doesn't really have a whole lot going through it. You've got a town with basically no stoplights. You've got a small downtown square area. They've got a gas station, a few other things, so there's not really a lot there. But some of the good things about Winona are going to be the cheaper housing. There are newer developments in and around Winona, so you're going to have some options for newer houses that are going to be a little bit more affordable than most of what you're going to find in Tyler. Additionally, some of it is new construction. You're going to find land that's cheaper there. Just overall, the cost of living or purchasing a home is going to be a little bit cheaper in Winona than it is in some of these other communities around the area. Also, if you are a drinker, Winona does have a liquor store. I can't really understand why it's there, but not in Tyler. I don't know if it's a municipality rule or a county rule, but you can buy liquor in Winona. Some of the cons, not dissimilar from Flint. There's basically nothing to do. I don't even think there's a restaurant in Winona. They do have a Dollar Tree or Dollar General, one of those. So you can get some things there, but otherwise you're going to Tyler. There's not even a grocery store. You're going to probably go to the Super One on Gentry, which is on the north side of town. Otherwise, you just kind of live there and commute everywhere else. There's not a lot of industry or anything of that sort. However, you are close to the interstate if that helps. Coming in at number 6 is Chandler, Texas. Now, Chandler's a great little community. I'm a little biased to Chandler because I worked in the community as an assistant principal for 4 years, not in Chandler specifically, but in Brownsboro, but I know that Chandler feeds in there. It's a great little area. Some of the benefits of living in Chandler are it's going to have a solid community feel. They've got a parade, they've got traditions and things like that. People from Chandler relate to that. They take pride in that. I do like the schools there. I was, had a pretty good working understanding of the schools, and we contemplated sending our own kids there because I did like it so much. Ultimately, we decided against that because we just didn't want to move to Chandler long term. So, but I would say the community and the schools are a big plus for Chandler. Additionally, it is growing. You've got two of the biggest builders in the country, NHC and D.R. Horton, have built new housing communities there. To me, that signals that they see Chandler as an area for continued growth. Additionally, those newer homes are a lot cheaper than what you're going to find in Tyler, especially when you look at NHC. I've had a couple clients buy homes from there, and I'm not often impressed in real estate, but I will tell you I was impressed with their product and the cost of their product. Brand new housing for $90 to $100 a square foot is unheard of, but they have bunches of homes out there priced like that. So if you're looking for a bigger home at a reasonable price, Chandler's going to offer some great options. Now, one of the cons about Chandler is it's got high taxes. If you live in the city of Chandler, they have the highest total tax rate in the entire, what I will call East Texas. So the value of your home is going to be taxed pretty high relative to the other communities. So that's going to be one of the biggest negatives of Chandler. Coming in at number 5, we have Troup, Texas. So just southeast of White House is Troup, a little bitty town, cute little downtown area, one street town. There's a little bit to do there. You've got a Dairy Queen, maybe another restaurant. It is a cheaper Lake Tyler alternative. So if you want to live on Lake Tyler, those Troup addresses tend to be a little bit cheaper. And a lot of that is just because it's further away. It's kind of that southeast portion of the lake. So you're going to get a little bit better deal if you want to live on Lake Tyler. Additionally, the schools in Troup are good, pretty consistently highly rated. We don't have any up-to-date ratings because all the school districts are in a lawsuit with TEA over the most recent ratings. So we've got stuff from a few years back, but in my experience, I've always heard good things about Troup schools. Additionally, Troup is growing a little bit. There's a developer, an agent in there that's kind of working on building some new construction in Troup. I think over time that is going to bring more people out there because it's going to be likely a little bit more affordable than some other new construction communities in the other East Texas areas. So I'd be on the lookout for Troup to continue to grow. Some of the cons of Troup, Texas: it's pretty far from Tyler. To get to South Tyler from Troup, you're looking at 25 minutes. It's a pretty good little drive. You've got basically one way in on 110 and you're going to head west. So depending on traffic, it's not a super easy trip to Tyler. It's going to take a little bit of planning and that kind of thing. Additionally, Troup's pretty limited in terms of activities. You don't really have much to do there. And because of that, you're not going to, anything that you want to do that's, an activity or fun with the kids or the family, that kind of thing is going to be a little bit more of a trip to get into Tyler. So tied with Troup for 5th is Jacksonville. Now, Jacksonville to me is probably one of the more underrated cities in East Texas. Some of the things that I like about it specifically are the fact that it's on the south side of Tyler. So when we look at one of our other favorite communities, Lindell, in a minute, one of its cons is it's on the wrong side of Tyler. So because Jacksonville sits on the south side of Tyler, it's just as close to the amenities in South Tyler as Lindell is, despite being further away from Tyler altogether. Additionally, it's a bigger town. I want to say it's 18 to 20,000 people. So you've got a movie theater, you've got multiple restaurants, sit-down type restaurants, lots of fast food options, things like that. It's got a pretty good sense of community. They got the Tomato Fest, the Tomato Festival, all that kind of stuff. And people from Jacksonville like being from Jacksonville. It's very affordable, which is one of the biggest pros of Jacksonville, is those prices are pretty undervalued, I think. And in time, I think that's going to change as all the population continues to move south. How long will that be before it kind of catches up or becomes a very desirable area? That's tough to say. But I do think it's one of the more underrated communities in East Texas. Now, some of the cons about Jacksonville: it is older. You don't have a lot of new development. I'm not familiar with any new developments in terms of construction and things like that for housing in Jacksonville. Additionally, some of the commercial spaces are a little bit older. They are working to expand. Every time I drive through, it feels like I see something new, but it just has an older town feel. Not a lot going on there, but it is going to be a little bit more self-sufficient than most of the other small towns on our list. Coming in at number 4 is ARP. ARP has good schools. It's got a pretty good sense of community. Being a smaller town and kind of being out there on its own, people of ARP do have a strong sense of community. Just knowing people from that area, they love it. They won't leave there. It does have a rural small town feel. I'm going to say it's probably very similar to Troup, but you also have access to the lake, not dissimilar from Troup. It's just a little bit north of there. ARP and Troup are big rivals, so something to be aware of. If you have kids in school and high school and things like that, they will likely compete against Troup. It also has a lower cost of living. Very little newer development in ARP, but a lot of the land and the homes and things like that are going to be cheaper just because it's further from Tyler, a little less desirable. So you're going to find more affordability out there between the land and the homes and that sort of thing. Some of the cons about ARP: it is pretty small. There's not much to do there. I would say it's actually probably has less to do than Troup. There may maybe a restaurant or so in ARP, but ARP's one of those towns, if you blink, you might miss it kind of thing. So most of what you're going to do is going to be at home. It's going to be, small town feel, sense of family, community, that kind of thing. Anything that you're going to need, you're going to likely have to go into Tyler to get. There may be a grocery store. I'm honestly not sure. I know there's one in Overton, so people of ARP may just go into Overton to the Brookshire's over there. It is far from Tyler, similar to Troop. It's about 25 to 30 minutes to get to South Tyler, so you're going to have a pretty good drive if you need to make it into town. Coming in at number 3 is Bullard, Texas. Now, Bullard would probably be my favorite amongst these, even though I did the scoring and whatnot, it actually came out third. But that being said, Bullard is a great option if you're looking to live in a small town near Tyler. One of the biggest benefits of Bullard is it's got a lot of newer construction, newer homes, newer development. So you're going to have a lot of options from first-time home buyers to move up to forever type homes. You're going to have a lot of different options in newer construction, existing construction, things like that. There's a lot of good home and housing options. I would expect to see Bullard continue to grow. The little downtown area is starting to get more stuff. They've got multiple restaurants. They've got a grocery store. Close proximity to Highway 69 will allow it to get a lot of traffic and kind of keep everything up. Another great pro about Bullard, Texas is the schools. Everybody loves Bullard schools. Great tradition in academics, athletics, all that kind of stuff. Bullard is a big draw for families of the like. I would say that probably makes up a good portion of the people that live in Bullard. Bullard also has homes on Lake Palestine on the east side, which is the better side. So that would be on my radar too if I wanted to live on the lake. Some of the negatives about Bullard: the homes are actually pretty expensive there. They're not going to be the same price per square foot as some of the more elite South Tyler areas, but they are pretty close. They have the highest median price point of all the homes, average, median, whatever, the other areas that we're going to look at. And a lot of that is because there is a lot of newer development. So the median price point is going to be higher because those new homes are just going to be more expensive generally. But that is something to be considerate of when you're looking at these towns. Bullard's going to be one of the more expensive. Bullard's also not fully independent. You're still going to have to go to Tyler for some stuff. You can get your groceries and things like that in Bullard, but there's no Walmart, there's no Lowe's, Home Depot type place. So you're going to have to make some trips in Tyler. The benefit though is it is very close. Coming in at number 2 on our list is Lindell, Texas. Now, Lindell, when we talk about the pros, you always associate the schools. Lindell just has the best schools. They've consistently been rated the highest in East Texas. Whatever tier it is, they are in the first tier consistently. Big draw for lots of families because of the schools in Lindell. There's also more development happening in Lindell. There's more restaurants being added. There's a bigger commercial retail type thing being developed along 20 in Lindell. You've got multiple big builders in Lindell, so the community is going to continue to grow. There's big groups putting a lot of money in there, so to me that signals that they believe in the town as a place that can support the commerce necessary to keep these things open and whatnot. So I think Lindell is going to be continuing to grow. Lindell is the most self-sufficient to me of all these communities because you have everything that you need, and I think part of that is out of necessity. Lindell's pretty far from most of the things in Tyler that you're going to end up doing. The north side of Tyler, outside of the zoo, is largely going to be industrial. Downtown, I guess, is kind of north central, but largely most of what you're going to do in Tyler is going to be on the south side. So because of Lindell's proximity to the south side of Tyler, I think they've had to develop stuff. They've got lots of boutiques for shopping. They've got a cute little downtown area as well, restaurants, plenty to do in Lindell. You don't really have to leave Lindell, and if you haven't already checked out that video on our breakdown of Lindell, you can see that it's a great little town altogether. Now, we hinted at some of the cons of Lindell, and for me, the biggest one is it is the furthest away from the part of Tyler that you want to go. So living in Lindell is about the same as living in Jacksonville. You've got a 25 to 30 minute drive to get to South Tyler if you want to go, say, to Academy, the mall, certain restaurants, things like that. Lindell is going to be a pretty good trek. Now, you can get on the toll road and it will shorten it, but that's not a cheap trip. Probably $4 or $5, round trip to get there. And depending on how frequently you need to come to Tyler, that could definitely add up. Additionally, the city taxes of Lindell are a little bit higher. They're not like Chandler, but it is going to affect, your property taxes and things like that. So you could pay a little bit more than some of these other areas if you live in Lindell City proper. All right, number 1 on our list is White House, Texas. The biggest pro is that is where Patrick Mahomes is from. Just kidding. But it is kind of cool to say that Patrick Mahomes is from there. They definitely take a lot of pride in that. Tons of Kansas City Chief fans in White House. Additionally, they've got great schools. I would put them on par with Bullard and that sort of thing. People are drawn to there. It is the biggest school of all the ones that we've looked at so far. So you're going to have more opportunities for your kids to fit in different activities, whether it be sports, academics, things like that. Because it's such a big school, there's going to be lots of options for your kids. Additionally, White House is pretty affordable. It's It's one of the lower median price points of all the areas that we've looked at. Given its proximity to Tyler, it's pretty remarkable. Now, the other part to that is there's not as much new construction in there, so a lot of it is going to be pre-existing, so that's going to be what brings it down. But you can find a good sized home, 2,300 square feet, for a much more reasonable price than you're going to find in South Tyler, in Bullard, even Flint for that matter. White House is the closest to Tyler of all these. It's about like Flint, 10 to 12 minutes to get into South Tyler for anything, so you don't have to go very far if you live in White House to access all of the benefits of South Tyler, but have the benefits of lower cost housing. White House also has about everything you need. It's not quite to the extent of Lindale. There's not a Walmart there, but they do have a grocery store. They got lots of little boutiques, several restaurant options and things like that. So you don't have to necessarily leave White House very often. If you need to get something, most of it is going to be available to you there. Some of the cons of White House, for me, it just feels a little bit older than all these other towns. I don't know what it is, or I can't really put my finger on it specifically. I drive through there and I'm never impressed or really feel like, oh, I would want to live here or anything like that. Not that it's bad. It's just, to me, not as nice as some of these other areas like Lindale or Bullard and that kind of thing. But its proximity to South Tyler probably outweighs some of that. Another con is we haven't actually seen as much new development there. Conaway was building in there for a little while, starter type homes like 12, 13, 1,400 square feet homes, so a little bit smaller homes. But we haven't seen any builders go out there and start to build, that kind of move up or forever type home. And I don't know why that is. I'm sure they did their market research and maybe that's just not an area that supports it. So one of the cons is just going to be a little bit limited in terms of your newer construction choices. As always, thank you for checking out our newest video. If you found it useful, please give us a like, leave us a comment, tell us your favorite small town or the areas that you've been considering making a move to. If you have been thinking about making a move, don't forget to reach out. We would love to be a part of your process in making East Texas home.